Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Bobby Marsden, founder of Glamptuary, a blog and podcast designed to deliver engaging stories, informational interviews, and a point of conversion for the glamping and experiential outdoor hospitality industry. Bobby also has some exciting announcements he's going to be coming out with today for new launches coming out in the fall of 2025. Bobby, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Glamptuary. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have had a long career and I'm still one foot in, one foot out in the entertainment industry, working as an executive producer. So I've worked for companies like Netflix. You might have heard of them. Worked on a couple of shows called Stranger Things. You might have heard of that. But over the course of the last 20 years, I've worked with ad agencies, entertainment studios, production companies. And as an executive producer, my job basically is to be handed the check and a list of deliverables and a timeline. And then my job to execute against that. And so it's everything from hiring staff to managing the project, overseeing creative, and being responsible for either making a deadline or not. I think I was always in search of the greener grass when I was working in that industry. I kept moving from sector to sector and I never really found what I was looking for. And I'd say about 3 years ago, I asked myself the question, if I've been everywhere in the industry and I'm not feeling any different, maybe the industry isn't the right answer for me. So sat down with my wife, told her I want to make a change. She said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I have no idea." But I just started asking myself, I wouldn't say difficult, but challenging questions because I needed to be honest with myself. And it wasn't about an outward perception. It wasn't about what anybody else would think. I really needed to be okay with the answers just sitting by myself. And I came to the conclusion that whatever I'm going to do, I want to be passionate about it. I want to care about the outcome and not be doing it just for the money. I want to do something where I can help tell a story. I want to do something where I feel I can impact people's lives in a positive way. And I want to play off my strengths. And I knew my strengths were coordinating and planning and strategy. And so it didn't really give a clear answer. You ask those questions, get those answers, and then you're like, wait, I still don't know what I want to do. But when I started asking myself another question, what do I love to talk about and what do I love to experience? I kept coming back to travel. I kept coming back to vacations I've taken. Now that's an easy answer. And I think a lot of people would probably say that, but I really wanted to figure out, could I figure out a way to have a career talking about and experiencing the things that I love to experience? If that's the answer I come up with, vacationing, then why can't I work in that? And so that led me to start investigating what kind of travel do I like doing, getting more specific, asking more specific questions. And I landed on outdoor hospitality, which is kind of a fancy way for saying glamping. Yeah. And initially I was like, okay, I'll just open a glamping resort. But when you start diving into what it takes to do something like that, you start to realize, A, you need a lot of capital, which I didn't have at the time. And B, you need to have a way to access customers. So when I was trying to do research to see what other people were doing in the industry, I found it was hard to locate them. I thought I could go on Airbnb or another OTA and just simply type in glamping or a couple keywords and they would pop up. But that wasn't the case. And so what I initially found was the type of business I wanted to open was very underrepresented or not represented at all. Or they were categorized with other booking platforms like booking.com or Expedia, where the type of product that's being created by outdoor hospitality providers is not the type of products you initially find when you go to these types of platforms. Yeah. So I said, that's going to be a problem. If I want to open a business and I'm underrepresented or not even represented at all, or I'm grouped in other stores that don't have like-minded products, I'm probably not going to be very successful. So that was a light bulb moment for me to say, maybe my purpose here is not to create another product, but maybe to create a service that supports these products. And that led me to asking the question, okay, so how do I break in? And I sat down with a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur, and I can't say enough about having mentors in the space and just having the courage to express your idea out loud. Because when you do that, and you're around like-minded people or intelligent people or people that you trust, they're going to give you feedback. And one thing that my friend Mona Patel said, a very brilliant woman, she said, you're going to need to find a way to establish yourself as a master of the subject. And you're going to need to find a way to get connected with people in the industry and do it in a way that doesn't give away your idea. Whatever your idea is, try and find a way to infiltrate the industry, learn as much as you can about it, establish trust, but don't give away your idea. Figure out whatever that is. And that led me to the blog and the podcast, because through the blog and the podcast, I could do two things. One, connect with people on a level of trust, because we're really just creating conversation about the thing they're passionate about. And then two, I'm taking that conversation and what they're telling me, learning about it, but I'm also putting it on a platform that raises awareness about the industry I eventually want to work in. So that's been the journey for the last couple of years with the Glamptuary blog and podcast, is one of learning, one of meeting people, networking, but also raising awareness about the industry.
I love that. I want to dive deep into that and what you've got planned for the future as well.
Yeah.
But you made me think of when you, at the beginning of your story, when you're like, I asked myself a series of challenging questions, you made me think of a Tony Robbins quote that I love, which is the quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So I'm curious, I don't know if you have them off the top of your head, but do you remember what were some of those questions that you asked yourself early on?
Yeah, I first had to ask myself, why was I not feeling fulfilled in what I'm currently doing? Is it the people I'm working with? Is it the things I'm working on? Is it the industry I'm working in? Is it the impact it may or may not be having? I think that's where I wanted to start. So it wasn't so much about where do I want to be, it's how am I feeling right now? And what are the things around me that are creating that feeling? And are there any things with that I can change? Because starting a new business and making a career change is one of the hardest things I think you can do, especially if you spent 20 years building a career and building all those connections and your reputation and your skill set, and you're at the top of your game and now you want to switch. Why? Is that really the right decision? So I first wanted to know, is it just one thing I could change within the current equation I'm in, and then maybe I would feel differently, or is it just everything? And what I came to the conclusion is I couldn't find one thing in the industry that I wanted to hold on to. It only came down to money, and money can be made anywhere doing anything. So if it's just about money, then this isn't the place I should be. It's not the industry I should be working in, because I'm not only not doing myself a service, I'm not doing a service of the people that are expecting me to be passionate, to be looking at their project or whatever product we're making is the most important thing. Because I think that's ideally where everyone should be. And so once I figured that out, then I asked myself, what do I love talking about? What do I love experiencing? And I don't think you need to have a separation between the things you love doing and talking about and the thing that you do to make you money. I just don't feel like that has to be like that. I think a lot of people set their life up like that, where they want a clear separation, but I'd been living that life for 20 years and I wasn't happy. So for me, I knew that equation wasn't working. So it really started out with analyzing where I was and making sure that it wasn't just something within the equation that wasn't right, and I could make that change and then it would solve the issue. Once I realized that wasn't the case, then I just needed to figure out, what do I love talking about? What do I love experiencing? And how can I find a way to make money off that?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's powerful for the listeners that feel like they're in a spot in life where they're not entirely fulfilled, to ask themselves those challenging questions. Now let's pivot back to Glampuary.
Sure.
You said something interesting at the beginning. I think this was before we started recording, where you weren't really looking to monetize this when you were starting out. Now, when you think of the future, let's say over the next 6 to 12 months, what do you have planned for Glamtuary? What do you have planned for future initiatives? Just walk us through that.
Yeah. The reason I chose not to monetize out the gate was because I felt it would distort what I was trying to accomplish. And I would start making decisions based on money and not based on learning, not based on taking my time, not based on remaining open, because I really was still searching for an answer. And if I would have leaned into the money aspect of it, I just started making all my decisions around how do I capitalize. And I think it's difficult to be in a learning scenario and a making money scenario at the same time. That's why people go to school and then they go get a job. In school, you learn. In the job, you have to start to apply practical skills. So that's why I decided to do that. But I always knew eventually I'd have to monetize it. My wife said eventually this needs to start making money, so you figure it out. But through the course of exploration and talking with people, it became clearer to me that there were not only outdoor hospitality locations that were looking for representation, but outdoor recreation providers. These are people that you go to rock climb with, or take a guided hike with, or kayaking. They also were crowbarring into these other platforms and not really truly represented. Viator is a huge platform, does a great job connecting people with experiences, but they lead with urban. So it's museum tours, city tours, restaurants. That's what you pop up. If you dig deep, you can find kayaks. If you dig deeper, you can find hiking tours. But think about it from a provider perspective. They don't want to be buried. They want to be at the top. They want to be clearly visible. And if they can be grouped with other types of businesses and services. So if people come there looking for horseback riding, but maybe it's not available, that maybe they'll try kayaking. But if people come looking for museum tours, they probably aren't going to make the leap to kayaking. They'll find another city experience.
Yeah.
Through this exploration, I really was like, okay, there's outdoor hospitality destinations, there's experience providers, and then there's all the wonderful sustainably produced brands and products that are geared for outdoor recreation that, again, are made sustainably. So that maybe they're a higher cost of production, and that maybe prevents them from getting into a Target or an REI or a Walmart. Nevertheless, they're a great brand. They're a great product. They have a great message, a great reason why they exist. Clean Canteens, an example of this. Zero hiking shoes is an example of this. Made some recyclable products, but you wouldn't find those sitting on the shelf. That doesn't mean they shouldn't get used. And so when I started to look at the fragmentation in the marketplace, destinations, then you got to go to another platform and find experiences. Then you got to go to another platform and try and find the products you're looking for. Users and customers are looking for simplicity. Amazon's a great example. It's everything for everybody, quick delivery. If you don't like it, send it back. No harm, no foul. It's pretty simple. And that's why they're so successful. What I really started to realize is not only is it underrepresented markets, but there's fragmentation within the marketplace. And so we made a decision to say, let's try to connect all of the things together that outdoor enthusiasts are looking for. And part of this was research, talking to those enthusiasts and going to trade shows and being on the podcast, talking with people like, what are you looking for? Part of this was just looking at marketplaces and asking, why can't these be combined in one spot? Why do I have to go to 3 different things? I think that's always a great question to ask, is why. Never be afraid to ask why. And so that has led us to start building a startup. We've been working on it for the last 8 months. It's a marketplace. It's going to be called Natureary. Nice. It's combining the word nature and sanctuary, which is also a play off Glampuary, which is combining glamping and sanctuary. It's designed to get people outside. It's designed to create a marketplace that not only supports small businesses, but supports outdoor enthusiasts that are looking to be connected with these providers. And I think the smart play that we're taking, hopefully, is that it's a niche marketplace. We're not trying to be everything for everybody. I think back to, this is going to date myself, when I used to buy jeans in high school, instead of going to JCPenney, I would go to County Seat. I don't even think they exist anymore, but it's because County Seat was a specialist store within a mall that only sold jeans. But they had all the jeans. And so if I'm going to buy jeans, I want to go where I get the best prices and the most inventory and selection. If I want to buy a shirt, maybe I'll go somewhere else because County Seat didn't specialize in that. So I think that people that are outdoor enthusiasts, true passionate people that want to be in the outdoors, support businesses that want to support the outdoors, they want to support sustainability. Why not create a marketplace that gives them all those things?
Yeah, I love that. And then how do you monetize that? Do you get a percentage of things? Is there an upcharge? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So simplest way to explain it is we're a commission-based model. Not dissimilar see on an Airbnb or any other booking platform where you're either booking a place to stay or getting an experience or renting a car thing. They're charging a commission for their service. So that's the base model. I think what we're going to also work to add as we move away from our MVP, which will launch this fall and continue to grow, is we want to add a subscription model in where that gives more of a membership opportunity and a chance to be part of a community. What do you get back for that? You waive all your transaction fees. So those little transaction fees of the consumer that you used to have to pay every booking, now they're gone. You get access to special events. You get access to exclusive sales. So giving a real reason to buy that subscription. That also does and creates an opportunity for us to do a revenue share back to our providers. So what we're constantly trying to do, or what I'm trying to do with it and our teams, is we want to make sure we have a balanced offering. Our providers are empowered and our consumers are connected to those providers.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to skew too heavily to one side or the other, because we know that within nature, you need balance. When nature gets out of balance, then bad things happen. So we're really just working off of what we see out in the real world in nature. And we know that if we have a balanced approach, take care of our providers, we're constantly empowering them, and we're constantly trying to create cycles that are a community-based approach. We feel that's what's going to preserve our relationship with our providers. And it's also going to allow us to continue to grow our consumers, because without the providers, there's nothing for the consumer to access.
Yeah, that's powerful. For the people that want to be updated when that is ready to be launched, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just was in a tech meeting this morning, talk about when we're going to launch Natureary.co. The website will be Natureary.co. If you follow along on the Glamptuary podcast, eventually we're going to start releasing information on that. And we've made a decision.
That's at Glamtuary, you said, for them to follow along?
Yeah, so the blog and the podcast is Glamptuary.com. And we'll eventually start releasing information there, but we're trying to keep it a little on the wraps, because in this MVP process for us, we really want to get the machine working. It's a complicated process to build a website. I've only had experience before in Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, website builders that have a ton of coding underneath it that make it very easy for you to use. Now imagine if you were the one coding that website builder. That's what we're doing.
I imagine that.
It's very difficult. Sometimes it's watching paint dry, but we're making progress every day. But we really want to, in our MVP launch, test that machine and make sure that works as good as it can for the providers and has a strong back office, so they can basically use our service to do everything from calendars, dynamic pricing, controlling their booking platform, creating their promos, getting their accounting reports. Basically, it's their entire back office. We want to create that experience for them to empower them, because the easier we make it for them, the longer they're outside. So again, it always goes back to get people outside. And then on the consumer side, it's ease of booking, ease of cancellation, ease of reschedule, and we're also creating an experience planner. So for instance, if you wanted to plan a trip with your friends, but you didn't want to book anything yet, you probably have to create a spreadsheet, create an email, copy paste links, and do it archaically. We're creating something where you can build your platform and your portfolio and your itinerary right within our website. You can share it out to your friends. You can make adjustments. You can do whatever you need to do before you book.
Yeah. Powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
Any final words before we wrap up?
I would say you have to get comfortable with being constantly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think, in my experience, having worked for other companies, there's a different set of being uncomfortable there. And oftentimes it's because you're having to deal with decisions you don't agree with, or you're dealing with coworkers you don't appreciate and you have no control over who those are. It's a lack of control. But in an entrepreneurial setup, it's also a lack of control. It's just a different set of things you can't control. And there's no one else making decisions for you. There's no one else telling you what to do. So it's a challenge, I think, in that it's never going to be comfortable. Life is not about being comfortable. It's about, as the Buddhist people would say, suffering. I think the biggest question you can ask yourself is, can I choose my own suffering, or am I forced to experience other people's suffering? And the more you can create a situation where you choose what you want to suffer with, I think that's where you start to tap into your passion, your purpose, and you feel fulfilled. When you're suffering for other people and suffering for other initiatives that are not your own, that's when you start to feel unfulfilled. That's when you start to feel disconnected.
I love that so much. That's powerful. Bobby, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go to Glamtuary.com, Glamtuary.com, and also subscribe to Founders Future if you haven't already. And if you are a business owner and you're looking to scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.